children were playing in the grass. One jump on the other's back and frustrating. She asked me no questions, you will hear no lies. Put down molasses and it will catch no flies. Two little boys were fighting in a ditch. One jump on the other's back and call him a son of a bishop. Had a dog, a pretty little dog was he. He lent into a lady to keep her company. This little dog was wicked as can be. He jumped up on the lady's legs and bite her on she country girls, country boys sitting on a rock. And up came a bumblebee and fed him on his cocktails, ginger ales, 10 cents a glass. If you don't like that, you can kiss my hairy.
This shirt says 2015. You see this? This was the shirt that this was the shirts that we printed to give away for my election campaign. To have holes under the arms, all kind of thing. But I pull it out to show you. 5 years old, 2015, September 2015. I ran for elections in Diego Martin West as an independent candidate. Plenty people is talking. Plenty people is talking. Now, at the time that I ran as an independent candidate, I was invited to run for both of the big parties. And at that point in time, I was clear in my mind that, and we had even tried to start the Third Force movement. I don't know if you all remember that. That was a short-lived attempt at getting everybody together. And this thing about getting everybody together, and I want to say this, political expediency is like meeting a woman in a party or a man meeting somebody in a party and getting married the same night. You will have a lovely wedding, but the marriage ain't gonna last. And the reason the marriage won't last is politics is not easy. Government is not easy. Running a country is not easy. Taking responsibility for the lives of 1.4 million souls and serving them adequately is not easy. And you cannot have, I've been having conversations tonight. I'm still talking to Steve Alvarez, and I'm telling Steve, I say, Steve, boy, you're wasting your last best shot. Political expediency doesn't work. It takes a long time for us to agree to work with somebody else. I mean, I know Watson Duke before Duke was head of the PSA. I know Duke long time. And I watched what he built in Tobago. And I want to tell you something. The THA and the PNM in Tobago is heinous. It's reprehensible. What they are doing to Tobagonians, what they have done to Tobagonians is obscene, it's criminal. So, I mean, I thought at some point Christlyn Moore would link up with Watson. Christlyn is another person I have great respect for. I don't know why Christlyn is out of the elections, but Watson Duke in Tobago with the PDP, the Progressive Democratic Patriots, we were always leaning towards endorsing that movement simply because, like what's about to happen in St. Augustine. St. Augustine is going to be a free-for-all because every 2x4, now the COP won St. Augustine on a UNC ticket because Ronald Bola put out the history of the St. Augustine seat since it was formed and who have had control of it. And Prakash Ramadar, Winston Dukaran won it under Bastio Pandey, Prakash Ramadar won it in the People's Partnership. But it's a UNC, more or less a UNC seat. But the Congress of the People, its current leader, going and try, because she thinks that Prakash won there. But Jack Warner had to walk the line in San Fernando West to get her into the parliament. And she forgot. And some of these people overestimate their abilities. And I tell people that all the time, you know. Leadership is not a title. Leadership, I mean, right now, I'm so exhausted right now. Right now I am so tired. You could see it in my face. I can't hide it in my voice. I'm that exhausted right now. These days, this morning, start last night, start yesterday morning. Yesterday morning, we were out and about from 7 o'clock in the morning. Satish and I left Pep Studio 1 o'clock this morning, working on ads that are now running on CNC3 and Synergy TV. So we had to finish those ads, and we went to the studio 10 o'clock last night, 9 o'clock last night. We finished the ads at 1 o'clock this morning. This morning, I roll off my bed to take a call to be interviewed on a radio station, to get myself ready to go down to the returning officer's office in Diego Martin Northeast to file to check my papers. We did that. I mean, it's no secret anymore. Which seat I running for? We did that. We got that out of the way, and then whole day, the entire day, it's been candidate management for the whole morning. It was dealing with issues with our candidates. But I'm just trying to say this, right? Leadership. Leadership is a holistic thing. In the Progressive Empowerment Party, I wanna give you an idea of the kind of people I deal with on a regular basis, I mean almost on a daily basis, and what their responsibilities are. So you understand how serious this thing is for me, and how serious, and I understand Rowley and Kamala, they're in parties that have staff. They're in parties that have money, all kind of contractor money, and money from last time they was in office, people betting to double down. There are people who's put a 10 million in one and a 10 million in the other, and whichever one win, they take back a 50 million. So they don't have to do what we have to do on a daily basis. That's have to deal with Kenneth Luke and his team. He is the head of the advisory council. Now the advisory council in the Progressive Empowerment Party, they have a lot of people who read our policies and think, wow, that will work. And now those policies came from about 10 years of research and dealing with the best in their fields to come up with those policies. But to take the policies to the next step, the advisory council's job is to create a document we refer to internally as just push play. And what just push play means, if we tell you that we are going to redirect the effort spent on water management in this country to capture, hold, treat, distribute, what that means is there is a plan as to how to actually do that. And the advisory council's job is to put together that information. How do we go forward from here? Because our ministers, when we get into office, are going to be given 100 days. 100 days. If you are the Minister of Public Utilities under a Progressive Empowerment Party government, in 100 days, you have to come back to the cabinet with an actual overview of the existing situation, pole to pole, corner to corner in Trinidad and Tobago, where we are with public utilities. Break it apart into water, telecommunications. Yes, telecommunications will come under public utilities in a Progressive Empowerment Party government. Telecommunications is a growth pole. Water, telecommunications, electricity. And we will identify how to get what we want to do in just push play into what is the existing reality on the ground. But you have to have two things. When you're going somewhere, to get there, you have to know where you are and know where you want to be. Those two things. So the 100 days, the minister have to tell us where we are. And the advisory council have to tell us where we want to be on all of our policies. On education, we say that we are going to rebuild 200 purpose-built schools that could deal with 1,000 children at a time from standard 1 to form 5. That will be considered basic education in Trinidad and Tobago, 5 to 15 on average. No SEA, seamless transition, zoned with a grade point average and continuous assessment 3 times for the term outside of the school so the teachers can't rig it. Examiners will come to the school and administer an exam the purpose of the exam is not to stack children against each other, but to stack children against their last best performance with a goal towards achieving the national benchmark. That's all. I don't care how Jim did in relation to Sally and Mary. I care how Jim did in relation to Jim last term, and I care how Jim did in relation to the national average. So if the national grade point average is 4.0 and Jim did 3.6 and he did 3.4 last term, Jim is improving. Let's monitor Jim. He is doing well. He is heading towards where he's supposed to be. If Jim did 3.4 and he did 3.6 last term and 3.7 the term before that and he's at 3.4, we're going to flag Jim. We're going to flag him. Because if Jim goes lower next term, then we know Jim has a problem. We could even say that depending on the size of the drop between his average, his own median average, and where he is today, it could trigger the guidance counselor having a word with him to see if the parents need to be brought in, if something might be triggering his sudden decline. But the advisory council job is to design that plan and have it ready based on all that I just told you. If I tell you that we built a school that could accommodate 1,000 children, that has guidance counselors and could deal with examiners for a grade point average, you understand a holistic system. It starts to build itself in your mind. You start to see a system that is responsive. But in the actual school, you see a closed environment where the principal, the vice principal, and the teachers are the administration of the school, and together with the parents, the Parent Teachers Association of that school is responsible for the performance of all the children under a constituency board of supervisors, supervisor of education, answerable to the Ministry of Education. So that in your constituency, there is a junior minister of education called the supervisor of education, and that person's responsibility is everything to do with education in your constituency. The maintenance, the development, the performance. You see those things? Those things are important. If you have a problem with a teacher in a school and you need somebody to complain to and the principal not listening to you, you have access to the education supervisor to go and say, listen, this teacher being abusive or being disrespectful or whatever. So you have places to go. I had to ask somebody earlier who's asking me, what you going to do? Don't tell me vote them out. There must be something else. I ask him, what you going to do? Burn tires? Petition? Riot? What? In this country where nothing works, the only thing that you can do is vote them out and vote somebody into power, vote an organization into power that sounds like it has a plan. The advisory council in the Progressive Empowerment Party, their job is to put wheels on the plan. Put wheels on it. So I can tell you this right now and I can speak it off the cuff like this. And that's easy to do. Kamala says 50,000 jobs in 90 days. What's that mean? 50,000 people mowing Kamala lawn? We know our job plan. We know our job plan, and our job plan starts at the embassies and the high commissioners. Our jobs plan starts with a holistic redevelopment of Trinidad and Tobago into multiples of directions that I am reading. I was reading some of Kamala's promises and I said, this is deja vu. I've read this before. Oh yes, I've read this in PEP's sneak peek at our manifesto, 21 policies that we issued in 2017. But Kamala never spoke about anything like this before. So obviously, she too is excited about the Progressive Empowerment Party's policies. Obviously, Kamala agrees with us enough that she's willing to plagiarize PEP policies because she knew none of this before. She has nobody new in the party. In fact, she's thrown away the intellectual asset base of the party and hired some very green politicians, and I don't mind that, don't get me wrong, but she's not the kind of leadership, she's not the kind of leader that could harness them. A 4-day weekend leader cannot harness people who need constant guidance to keep the wheels on the ground. And green people need constant guidance to keep the wheels on the ground. When they ask for people with experience, the reason they're asking for people with experience is that they are self-managing. You heard what Kezia Rand Paul said in the last PEP presentation of candidates, our education policy, how holistic. We want to get the children to be able to asset manage themselves, teach them that skill, so straight out of the education environment, they could seamlessly integrate into a life, into a job, into starting a business, but they understand responsibility, they understand how things work, they understand cause and effect and consequence and effect, they understand these things. But I don't think that the UNC understands it. And they just want to copy, and that's all right. That's okay. Caroline C. Prasad Bechar and the Congress of the people copying. Right now, while we are alive, there are politicians copying, changing words, looking up synonyms on Google to try and say what we say differently. That's okay. No problem. No problem at all. But don't think for 1 minute you, as a voter, get off the hook because somebody else says something that sounds like what Phillip saying, you vote for that. Because if you allow yourself to be tricked, it's on you. Because you have a responsibility to ask Kamala Prasad Bisesa one question. How do you know all of this all of a sudden? And why didn't you do it when you were in office? Because if she's only saying these things because the Progressive Empowerment Party has changed the national narrative away from pipe and grooming and pastures to detailing how to fix water. You see, they vex, the people who just import all the pipe and the people who just get all the contracts, they vex because Phillip is not just telling people that you can have water for all. Phillip and the Progressive Empowerment Party is telling you how. We're telling you how much it costs. When the PNM send their trolls, where get any money from? We're stopping all from thieving money. Half the budget is theft. If we just got back the 13 billion that Malcolm Jones, Ken Julian, and Patrick Manning, Conrad Enel run through for ultra-low sulfur diesel and gas to liquids, just that $13 billion, that could build about 10,000 houses. Just that. The 20 billion only pick up and hand Dupre to save Clico and CL Financial, that next 100,000 house. All we have to do is stop your corruption. If we had saved the $1 billion you gave to Abu transporting nickel and dime prisoners, if Trinidadians understand that the 100 million a year you spent transporting them is 1,000,000 times more than they actually stole, you will wonder why an accountant didn't say, let's work this out differently. Because if you're spending $100 million to transport a man who stole $100, how does that add up? How? And if all we say is stop the mismanagement, stop the incompetence, stop the unnecessary contracts, we have boards in Trinidad and Tobago. There are 5,500 jobs available in the public service since Kamala was in office. And they've not been filled as yet. They are all placements that are available in these make-work boards all through the system that don't need to be there. And all of those boards are unnecessary. We have too much government. And what they've realized is, like renting buildings from Faris and Sinanan and Franklin Canwife, what they realize is, we could fool you. If we rent a building from Faris and call it a ministry, you can't argue because you can't tell me if you know what is the asset requirements in the ministry. You don't know. And if I tell you, if they tell you, let me not say me because the UNC, let's chop and cut and remake video. If they tell you that Petrotrin needed 14 vice presidents in charge of marketing, each of them taking home $250,000 a year, and half of them is your friend and family, the whole middle management of Petrotrin was related to Chandra Sharma. So if you tell me that that's what they're doing, the average person can't understand it. And they figured out that we could go in the cabinet and say $120 million to build Napa. Show them the pictures, wow them. Because the people in the ghetto, they like pretty thing, and they don't know that the money that is about to spend to build the pretty thing is really their money. They're disconnected from it because the education system doesn't teach them that. So if you say $120 million to build Napa, okay, we go do that. Napa looking pretty. And it don't remind me about Australia have. Yeah, we look at Winner man. We put in spinning wheels on the country. No problem. Spinning wheels. Spinning rims. But when you start to build it and ground break, and they say, boy, steel gone up, concrete gone up, workers gone up, everything gone up. They had economists telling you that Patrick Manning was overheating the economy. That sound like a thing. He overheated it. Could you turn down the heat a little bit? It just sounds, these people are actually given titles and paid to distract you with nonsense. Notice I ain't cussing at all, New parliamentary Phil. I want to use words like donkey go bar, but they just go and complain. Just go and complain. So Napa start a bill, and when Napa start a bill, South say, and all they need is some obfuscators in South to say, so I'm the South. They say, pump all the brakes now, we bring in a sapper for all you. Good. Right? So Napa at 120 million, Sapper at 140 million, we going down tight. South and North, and they have their talking heads, the Rhoda Barretts and the Daryl Dukus, and they start a little conversation. All they thought all they was getting it alone. Look, we getting we own too. And fool the poor people in the ghetto who children belly swell up with the air. And they don't know that the money they're about to spend on Napa and Sapper should really be spent making food cheap and jobs plentiful. Because that's the first job of the government. Food cheap, plentiful jobs. So that the people could be self-sufficient and manage their lives. That is how it should be done. That's what should have been done at every step of the way. And that's what Kamala and Pandey and Manning and Rowley have failed to do. If we stop talking 48 years and we just talk the last 20 years where we spend $1 trillion, and I ask you all the time, look around. Everything was already there. Everything was already there. Pandey built an airport, Kamala built a hospital, Manning built a set of thing, and people say that's where the money went. That's not where the money went. We still owe in China for all of that. We spend the money and we still owe in China for all of that. But it's get worse because work start on Napa and you hear cost overrun, the economy overheat, the price of concrete went up. And when they done bill, Napa cost $567 million. Sapper cost the next $500 million. When you look at what went on in Taruba, that really wasn't supposed to cost $100 million. It was approved for $100 million and change, and it crossed $1.2 billion. I went down there, and I am not a quantity surveyor, but I am telling you that they don't have $10 million in steel, they don't have $10 million in concrete, and they don't have $10 million in engineering, electrical, plumbing, and ancillary services there. So Taruba is worth $30 million, but you budgeted for 110 or 120 million. But when you're done, it costs 1.2 billion. So the first price that you budget for could have billed it 4 times. The price you end up billing it for above your own budgeted price costs 10 times. That means we could have built 40 Taruba Stadium, 40 tsunami shelter. Now you saying to me, boy Phillip, fire truck that now man, why you beating up yourself over a small thing? Because that $1 billion, that $1,000 million that could have built 10,000 houses in this country is in the pockets and bank accounts of others, not you. And the only reason it is in the bank accounts and pockets of others, not you, is because you are not taking your country as seriously as you should. If this was America, people would have gone to jail. If this was England and France and Spain and Portugal, if this was Iceland, the whole Manning government went to jail. If this was Iceland, the whole Pandey government went to jail. And you see what Kamala and Volney and them do with Section 34? They lost them in a dungeon. But this is Trinidad. In Trinidad, if it was Singapore, they might have hanged them. They'd have duly prosecute them and hang them. Because I want to tell you something. The country belongs to you. It belongs to you. It's yours. You own a share of it. That's what your birth certificate is. A share in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. At some point, your birth certificate will represent a debt owed in the nation of Afghanistan. Because everything is gone, it's broken. They're arguing about interest payment on $6.5 billion. $6.5 billion. PNM is saying 6.5 billion in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund is higher than it's been since 2018. Kamala is saying, but it was 10.5 billion in 2015. And I am asking, what did we spend the 3 trillion on? This is the third wealthiest nation in the Western world. The third wealthiest nation in the Western world. We had more money than Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay, Panama, Venezuela, Brazil, Colombia, Suriname, Guyana, Cuba, Jamaica, St. Kitts. I mean, we had more money than Bermuda. We had more money than everybody in the Western world, in Western Hemisphere, outside of America and Canada. America, Canada, Trinidad and Tobago. So you argued with me over the bun in the pot when we're supposed to have a pot full of pela with rice, peas and chicken all on the ground, and you fighting over who leave more bun in the pot. And we that stupid in this country that we still say, Massa, hear me, I still have a space on the back that you ain't hit me at, you know. Aim now. You ain't hitting hard enough. The name of this video is Take Boil. Take Boil. If you put a frog in a pot of hot water, it jump right out. Immediately. Now, ask you what the hell wrong with you, that water hot. But if you put the same frog in cold water on a stove and turn it up very slowly, he will allow himself to be boiled to death. And that's what they're doing. They have been boiling us for the past 30 years. Manning boiled everybody. Because all those things Manning built we didn't need. Right now, they're trying to pretend. They're playing a game called musical offices, musical buildings. That you build the waterfront as the financial capital of the world. You build Chancery Lane Complex as its cohort in South. And then the UNC come to office. And then the UNC say, okay, we will move the parliament from the warehouse and put it in the financial complex on the waterfront. And we will transform Chancery Lane from a financial service complex to a hospital. And they give you all the reasons why they do it. But when they spend $100 million to move the parliament, and they spend $150 million to redevelop a financial services building into a hospital, singing soft songs to children in the ghetto. Singing soft songs. We will eat tomorrow. I promise you. Remember last time we had a kiss cake? Remember last time we had Plum and Chenet? Singing songs to soothe them to sleep while gas in their belly hurting them. And we spending money, like $500 million on a red house. We spent $108 million on a president's house where nobody lives. Nobody lives there. We spent $108 million to now maintain an empty house. And that house, if it is costing anything less than $500,000 a year to maintain, I'd be surprised. It might be costing $1 million a year. $108 million. Wrap your mind around that. We spent $17 million to renovate the president's cottage. And the cottage itself could be razed to the ground. You could demolish it and build it back from scratch for $2 million. That means we could have built almost 8 of those cottages for the money we spent renovating one. So they moved. So now the waterfront is empty. It's empty. People sent me a message the last time I talked this and they show me You're talking nonsense. Look, Hyatt make a profit. I commented that. I remember when Daryl Smith opened Taruba and they had an event and he come to the public with an accounting. Bar staff, bottle boy, toilet cleaner, soap, toilet paper, umpire, car, taxi, hand wash, and ticket sales. Look how much money we made. We clear $1 million profit. I say, okay, no problem. You cleared $1 million profit to pay back the $1,200 million that is owed to the people of Trinidad and Tobago for Taruba. You have to make that $1 million profit for the next 10 years. Every night. Every night. It must make that profit every night. It must require no maintenance. It must require no renovation for 10 years, every night. It might be 100 years if you do the math. But the point I'm trying to make is that when they show me Hyatt bill and they say, look, income minus operating costs is net profit, no problem, but it costs $700,000 per room to build. Where's that money accounted for? Where's that money accounted for? Because you can't just defer the debt. It doesn't work so. For something to be profitable, it has to actually pay for itself. You get what I'm trying to say? So now the waterfront next to the Hyatt that losing hundreds of millions of dollars because it is not maintaining the debt. And if that was a private enterprise, that debt to a bank or a financial institution would be attracting a cost of borrowing, interest. And that interest will eat up what they're showing you as profit. To the point where every month it will be operating at a dead loss and you're still not servicing the principal and the amount that you owe growing. You understand that? That's how business is run. Not in the P&M, I understand. Because in the P&M, treasury funds are yours to play with. And your trolls could be all over Facebook talking like it's free. Everything that happened from here, it starts from free. So the waterfront next door to the loss-making Hyatt is empty. And it is supposed to be the financial services center of the Western world. But nobody came. Nobody was interested. So you go unit trust and you take the Integrity Commission out of there and you put them in a tower. And you go and you take other government offices and you put them in towers to pack up the towers and make it look like it's functional. So when you put the parliament, you had take the whole front and you had used up all the flowers. Now the parliament come out and gone back in the $500 million red house. We're back to having the financial service waterfront empty again. So what to do? Move the courts. Spend a couple $100 million, move the courts from the Hall of Justice, fence around the Hall of Justice, and let it decay. Just let it decay. Because once it decays enough, that's what they did to the Red House. If you do not use a property, natural decay occurs. It degrades itself. So if you leave the Hall of Justice fenced for about 6 years, and somebody else in the contract mafia fronted parties come to office, they will blame them and say you should have never, and we can't. There is history here. There's national pride. It's the first prefab. It's the first one imported from Brussels on a Virgin ship, and we have to save it. And all you need to do is remember the woman with the big growth on her neck screaming at me in Woodford Square? And the fella with no teeth in his mouth? And I want to tell them that the money spent on the Red House would have fixed your neck and his mouth. A woman come on my wall and tell me, what it is? Nothing works in the country but your ass fat and happy. Now, I am a student of history. And the person that called Churchill fat, I wanted to quote him. I wanted to say, yeah, I fat, but you ugly and I could diet. You can't do nothing about our face. But I couldn't. Because people will say, hey, watch, look, screenshot. Look what he's saying. I nobody prime minister. Although the pasture groomer, shit kicker, is okay. And it's weird that way. how PNM supporters view themselves and their party, because there is a standard that they set for themselves that is different to everybody else. And you have to be strong to stand up to this. And they know I will slap from a side. They know if they want to play slap for slap, let me go. And the followers and the supporters of the Progressive Empowerment Party, the reason this party grew so fast is that they're happy to finally have a champion that will gladly debate Fitzgerald Hines live on any medium. Will go Balize House to debate Faris and shut him up. Because those windbags and artificial thinkers, the opposite of a critical thinker, those artificial thinkers and script readers have done you wrong for 4.5 years. I want to tell you something. The sexiest thing a government has, any government in a democracy, the sexiest thing it has is the election budget. The election budget is like the family who, instead of buying foreign Nabisco soda biscuit, buying Cricks, saving $3. And the Cricks tasting alright, but you really want to be eating the foreign soda biscuits, but you save that $3 and you put it in that tin. And that $3 saving in that tin religiously. And in a certain period of time, you'll be able to tell the family, guess what we doing this August? All of we going Disney World. You put aside soda biscuit money to eat Cricks so you could go Disney World. But that's what governments do. Governments set aside every time they could something that come the budget before the election, boy sweetie sharing. Only remember bulb and yam? They started last year in the quarter term, the half term budget they did, and they promised you all bulb. They promised contractors to build a house at $400 a square foot. I want to tell you something. That's Fairway's price, you know. $400 a square foot to build low-income housing is insanity. But this is Trinidad and Tobago, where the PNM say it in the budget, and the copy and paste media write it down in the newspapers. All you could say is, but look it in the papers. Because that's what they do. They dumb you down. They undereducate you. They underinform you. When Garvin Bernard Franco said, it's 1,400 hours of live videos you've done. 1,400 videos on average. Inform, educate, and empower. An election budget is the come hither that a pretty girl gives you. That smile that lights up her eyes. You don't forget what Colm do here. Don't tell me about that riot here. See the man give we the whole country get a Christmas bonus and we ain't working for him. Colm is the man. That was the plan. That was the plan. Hire petrotrin workers. Faris gone down south and say, here what we going to do. We're going to build a building so all you can get nice house to live in. And we go hire all you to build it. Who better to build where you live in than you? It sounds rational. This is sweetie time, but they didn't get to put aside enough. Because the budget was going to be predicated on a successful economy. I see them say, Heritage makes $6 billion, Paria makes $7 billion. I say, how much Trinidad would I make last year if they had no PNM to interfere with Petrotrin? If that's we money. That $13 billion is Trinidad money rebranded as Heritage and Paria that going in all your friends and financiers' pockets that the Progressive Empowerment Party will undo. If I have to nationalize Heritage and Paria just to take it back, because remember, that's how we got Petrotrin in the first place. Eric Williams nationalized all the foreigners' business. Remember? And you see how Eric Williams had marched on Shagaramas to take Shagaramas back from the Yankees. The Yankee gone and Sparrow take over town. Remember that? Gina and Dinah, Rosita and Clementina, round the corner posing. Let me stop because they go cut it and say, look, Phillip singing like Glenn Ramadan saying. When they say the Yankee gone and Sparrow take over now, Eric Williams went down Chagaramas to take back Chagaramas from the Yankees on the 99-year lease. The British, who had owned Trinidad when the lease was given, had given to the Americans. And Eric marched on them. And we've been colonized again. The new colonists are the 1% owners of the PNM and the UNC that have written laws and used public office to steal from the public. And everything that went on in Chagaramas under Kamala and Rowley, we will march down there again. 5 islands that were supposed to build in the center of Trinidad and Tobago, they will pick it up and they will take it with them. But they will move it because we will give the people of this country back unspoiled Chagaramas National Park, and we will declare it a heritage site and make sure we write laws enshrined into the Environmental Bill of Rights as part of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago that national parks like the oldest growth forest at Westridge in Tobago and Chagaramas, and the one that Rohan Sinanan trying to mash up so his wife could get a highway to drive to she little party place in Manzanilla, when you see we undo them, I want them to know that we promised it now. You are the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and your children supposed to be able to go down to Chagaramas and run and play and ride bicycle. You can't do that now because everything that used to be something of value to the people, all of the wild, untouched wilderness, is now owned by deep-pocketed financiers. You pick, you eat, but all of the farmers that was marching to protect themselves lose their land. So we couldn't give the farmers in Chagaramas access to the land to grow food, but we could give it to you pick to serve you breakfast in the morning with Pires and Budu Singh and all of them who involved in that. And Budu Singh buy O2 oxygen or whatever it is from Deepak Kirpalani and is slowly but surely taking down a whole mountain and expanding, and nobody could tell us what was the original size of O2 Oxygen Park and what Budu Singh taking now. And that's Chagaramas, the land of who dares wins. And a progressive empowerment party, government, will dare more. Be clear. You see that property, you see that online tax that Colm create for rowdy partners, the importers, whose businesses should close down naturally because of the global retail apocalypse, but is being upheld artificially by an online tax gouging our people through customs. We will repeal it. We'll repeal it completely. And we will make sure that Trinidad starts to play in the online marketplace, that instead of taxing people for importing stuff, we will work with organizations like Amazon and eBay and Alibaba and ask them to create space for Trinbago product so that we have a free movement. They want that too, don't get me wrong. They are an online showcase. So if you tell them, in exchange, we will make Trinidad and Tobago an unstuffed shipment hub for the entire Caribbean, all them small islands. So you just need to send it here, break bulk it, and ship it out by drones if you reach that stage then. So all of you who are under pressure with the online tax, hold your hand. Wear your old clothes. When your jockey shorts band bust, tie it. Trust me, I know how to wear clothes with holes. Pump your brakes. Get ready to vote. You will vote that online tax into the dustbin. When they go on Google online tax, you know what's the first thing they see? Phillip Alexander, the man in charge of the petition. We were the first to respond to the online tax, and we've been fighting that online tax since. But they control the organization of state, and you own it. And for as long as you want to hear, as long as you want to know, as long as you want to feel that you live in a country where the organization of state actually works for you instead of against you. You see when you see when Stuart and Rowley could disrespect that lady who wanted to come here to bury her mother, but you're bringing in CPL cricketers. Gentlemen, hope and pray that any investigations into any of your activities, public, private, or otherwise, do not put us in a position where you have to request mercy. Because as the Bible say, we will dish it out in equal measure to the mercy that you showed others. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And that is going to be the measure you are dealt with by. And feel free, feel free to think right now you have it sewn up. Plenty people all through the world thought that they have no way they lose in office. I want to tell you something. You lose in office. And I want to tell you, all the little distraction and all the foolishness, Trinidadians seeing them for what they are. Trinidadians see Carolyn C. Prasad Bechan and Better United collapse. They see that nobody want to work with the corpse of the Congress of the People, and that Carolyn C. Prasad Bechan, as Ronald Bowler said, is a fraud. She shouldn't still be in politics. And Rene Renault asked me, why did you bring these people on your show? So that they could speak for themselves and you could hear what they've said. Peter Taylor, leave PNM in Maruga Tableland. Leave the PNM to go UNC in Maruga Tableland. And Gypsy leave UNC to go PNM in Maruga Tableland. And this next one who get caught drunk driving with the police lights outside Zen, what was his name? Who sent a call lawyer to prevent himself from getting locked up for driving drunk. That one, he gone down there too. And it's a stupid game of Red Rover, send your worst politician over. And the PNM and the UNC, their depleting handful of sycophants and supporters are pretending that the Peter Taylor they didn't like when he was PNM is somebody they love. And the PNM who hated Gypsy love him now. That they feel like they're fooling anybody anymore. They feel like they're fooling anybody anymore. The rest of the country see and understand that there's only one way forward. With a real government. Now we can't field, Phillip Edward Alexander, this jersey that I am wearing, I wore as an independent 2015. I went up against Keith Rowley in Diego Martin West. And I learned a lot. I learned about campaigning. I learned how the system works. I learned everything that I needed to learn. And we came back and we formed a party, and now we have an army of our own. So it's a different thing because we're not tiny anymore. We have an army of our own. We don't need deep pockets or drug traffickers giving us money to pay our bills. We're doing fine. We as Felicia say, as fishes and loaves, we're stretching, we're making do. The parable of the lady with the oil in the lamp, we're making sure that that oil lamp lasts forever. To the Jews who pay attention, that's for you. Listen, the Progressive Empowerment Party will make sure that we deliver the level of leadership that this country always knew it never had and always deserved. Because half the country sat down and watched Eric Williams run rampant through the other half of the country and use the office of state and the power of the country against people. They saw that. They saw Eric Williams create a dictatorship for himself. And it took the entire country to come together as the National Alliance for Reconstruction, which was a coalition of ULF, ONR, DAC, TAP, all of them. They formed themselves into this Tapia House. They formed themselves in a coalition called the National Alliance for Reconstruction because there was the Organization for National Reconstruction led by Carl Hudson Phillips. And then there was the Alliance, National Alliance, which was DAC joined up with Tapia House and some other parties, and then they joined with ONR, and all of them together broke the political hegemony that the PNM had for 30 years in 1986. But the coalition was put together 3 months before the election, and they didn't plan for the marriage. They planned for the wedding. We celebrated that wedding. All of us, we got drunk at that wedding. We won. We won, and black people and Indian people and Syrian people and white people and Chinese people and all kind of mix-up people. We party together, we wine in the road, we drink, we get drunk, we clean the country, we say prayers, we had healing, we do all the shit that you're supposed to do when you don't actually have substance. So Century Estlund, was it Century Estlund that wrote to the people, fed over, back to time to work, meaning we've lost the boom and we're in a bad way. Let's get serious. For a little while we was drunk under the NAR, and then the NAR had to take it seriously because nothing was changing. No amount of whining in the road was changing it. So when Kamala tell you 50,000 jobs in 90 days, tell her we've been down this road before, because the NAR tried that crap and they couldn't do it. So then they had to deal with the IMF and restructuring and onerous demands and cancel Trinidadians. Some of the public servants had something called cost of living allowance. That's a significant part of the salary. And then they cancel that and fire people and close down business. Businesses was closing down by the mile. Trinidadians was suffering. All of the support due. They had no money to pay for nothing. They had money to pay for nothing. Even break it had to stay broken. And the marriage couldn't survive. Sparrow sing, you can't make love on hungry belly. The NAR marriage couldn't survive that. It couldn't survive that it was broken and that they had no plan. As a government, the DAC and the ULF and the ONR were different ideologically. Pandey was the Labour Party, Pandey was the Farmer Party, ONR was the 1% party, ONR was upper class party, DAC was Tobago, Tap Your House was the intellectuals. When they sat around the table, they were approaching the animal from different sides every time. And in the beginning, when we drinking and we whining in the road, it's okay, because we ain't talking about serious things. But when serious time come, and we have to sit down together and agree, and we have to say, okay, who taking the lash? The 1%, the business class, Chamber of Commerce, the farmers, public servants, oil workers, who taking the hit? And that's when it broke. It started to fracture. And in 1988, 2 years into government, Pandey took his Indians, that's what he said, and left. And formed Club 88. He took them into the wilderness. Club 88, away from the NAR, without the ULF's vote, and Carl Hudson Phillips had dropped out before it went to election, because he saw when Crocro sang 5 Borat can't live in the same hole. It wasn't a wrong position to take, because all of them, the reason Better United did not become anything is Carolyn Alvarez, Gavin Nicholas, Louis Leasing, and ILP people, MSJ and Michaela, all of them sit down around a table, and all of them thought that all of them was supposed to be the leader. But none of them brought anything of substance to the table. All of them hand was in each other's pocket, trying to make as if they are a real substance, a real party. So when the news media talk about Better United, what are you uniting? At least the ULF had the sugar workers. What became the UNC? He didn't form ULF, he formed the United National Congress in Aranguez after. But now you had what was ostensibly a DAC functioning government with the whole facade and the illusion of it being a whole government. And like any balloon, one prick and it gone. And Abu Bakr in 1990 was that prick. Abu Bakr pricked the NAR balloon and it popped with the coup that the 1% who had get left out, who was taking all the hits, and others thought, you know, this man is a dictator. They said the worst things about Robbie. And when Robbie gets shoot, some people cheered in this country, in Trinidad and Tobago. But the point I want to make to you is that the NAR couldn't do it. The Congress of the People relived the ONR's history because the ONR ran for elections in 1980, came second in every single seat, and won not one. Sparrow sang not a damn seat for them, which is what Eric Williams had said. Not a damn seat, or it was a Chambers. I can't remember this point. But in 2007, the COP got more votes than the UNC, but won no seats in 2007. But it broke the UNC's ability to win the election, and that is when Bastio Pandey threw his tantrum and cussed Dukaran in his speech for all your woes and all your tears when they rape your mother and kidnap your children and all that shit. Bastio Pandey, thirsty for office, thirsty, custy man. The Patrick Manning government that survived up till 2007 couldn't survive because he won in 2002 and 2007 it was constitutionally due. But the same people who broke NAR broke Manning, and they broke Manning by a vote of no confidence that was coming, and they took people from the UNC and people from Manning's own party, Rowley and Camille Robinson Regis, and a couple of them that went Barbados to have a meeting to decide that they were going to vote with Kamala when she called a vote of no confidence, or with Pandey, and he called a snap election in 2010 and lost to another hastily put together, because Kamala was leader of the UNC for 3 months, and she and Dukaran, who was the leader of the new ONR 1% party, she and Dukaran met for Pagua, and they had that famous picture, the two of them, the reconciliation, and in 3 months, the COP and the UNC was in bed, loving up again. One more time, we were back in love, and we were getting ready to wine in the street, and everybody came and joined, and they brought the NJAC and the MSJ and two fellas who was fishing down in Caranage. They and all ended up in that partnership, and it became a thing, TOP and Tobago, up to this day. Up to this day, that fella don't know how TOP ended up in government, because that was a literal passing of gas in Tobago. But the partnership government fell apart, and the whole Congress of the People, even though Prakash Ramada stayed till the end, there was no Congress of the People. Everybody had either flaked out, failed, or left, who didn't convert. Ganga Singh went UNC, I think Boti Wari was NAR, Kamala was NAR, Ganga Singh, Anil Roberts, Anand Ramlogan, all of them went full UNC. So there was nothing left of a partnership again, like NAR, by the time it reached back to government, by the time it reached back to elections. So to say that you going and come and fool we with this coalition, and to tell people to say that coalitions work all over the world, they do. But those are countries where the parliament has a bigger cross-section of representation of people than we do. Here we have a demographic divide that has been used to create 41 arbitrary seats that are redrawn, coming close to every election, and voter padded through a national housing scheme by both sides that are fighting for political hegemony. And both of them are financed by a criminal white-collar class that is only interested in looting the country. Now, you may not think that a $1 million contract for $15 million is a crime, but it is. That's the real crime in Trinidad and Tobago. And when Gabriel Farias said in that WhatsApp thread that those two parties, PNM and UNC, don't care about nobody. I bounced up Eli Zakura, see him on the thread now. I bounced him up this morning that he's the candidate for Dego Martin Northeast. Eli Zakur under the UNC got himself a gas station license. Now Eli is a good guy, but they have people on the list of people applying for gas station license longer than Eli alive. But these political parties, they reward you. They reward you for standing with them. You don't have to believe in them. You don't have to agree with them. If you're interested in fixing yourself, get political with one of them and you'll work your way up. Kamala all but said that these people that she's sending forward now have worked their way up and they somehow deserve it. The only thing that makes you deserve the ability to run for election in a constituency is that you've worked on the ground to develop a relationship anywhere in the country that should translate into real representation of the people if you end up voted into office. That is all. Not that I like your hair, and I like your skin, I like your shoes, I like your pants, I like how you just talk, I like how you just play cricket, I like how you just play football, I like how you just talk on the radio as a DJ. None of those things. To the actual voters, what's supposed to matter is when I listen to the party talk, when I listen to the leader talk, when I listen to the policies they advocate, when I watch the track record of members of the government, when I look at the people put forward as potential candidates, because in the Progressive Empowerment Party, not one recycled politician. Not one. Not one. Just people who want a better country, who are trained to deliver that. A Progressive Empowerment Party Parliament will speak always to the needs of the people. The House of Representatives is also the legislature, but the function of the legislative agenda is to work in tandem with the national development policies. And our national development policies are very clear. Very, very clear. We have such a straightforward goal, you could follow it like an arrow, leave the bow to the target. We know exactly what we're trying to do, redevelop the country and rebuild the constituencies. A nation is a collection of constituencies. Nobody else will tell you, break WASA into 41 companies. Break it. 41 WASAs. 41. You could do public-private sector joint enterprise to get funding because it has a value. The Public Utilities Commission will set the rates and they will make some money and you will have financing to run it and will be able to capture, hold, treat, distribute island-wide, and you'll be able to judge the performance of companies in all of the 41 constituencies, and we'll put anti-monopoly rules inside it so that you can't own more than one and you can't have interlocking directors or co-directors. You can't even have a familial relationship with another adjoining one to prevent them slowly reamassing a privatized WASA. We'll even protect against that. Those things have to be said because we live in a country where under the NAR they give out 500 radio station licenses and one person owns 499 now because they put no protections in place. And you have to know all the different ways in a marriage that divorce could come. And you have to plan for that. You have to plan for that. And this entire conversation that I have had with you tonight started off by telling you all the different people we have in the Progressive Empowerment Party. And I only mentioned Kenneth Luke in the Advisory Council. I have not mentioned Anne Dulal, who is the party's Chief Research Officer, and she's the person responsible for identifying all of the ways that we could have a problem and all the ways that we need to fix it. She's like the chief lookout. Going forward as a political movement, you cannot just say, vote for me and I will give you this or I will give you that. It has to be predicated on something. If we tell you that we're going to get into avocado business, you must ask us why. We will tell you that there is an identified avocado business between Mexico and the United States of America that is currently worth $1.5 billion and the avocado trade is growing. We could tell you pepper mash is a massive industry for food, industry, and law enforcement. Pepper mash. So that it will be in the government's best interest to create agro-processing facilities to encourage people to grow just for export pepper. Moruga scorpion pepper. And you could grow Moruga scorpion pepper in the shade of your mango, guava, breadfruit trees. Because there are crops that come in a short term and there are crops that come in a long term. And if you time and plan your mango picking season and bring people from all around the Caribbean on a visa or an arrangement to come and pick, wrap, and ship mango, if the whole of Trinidad was growing pomsite right now, we can't grow enough pomsite just for export. And pomsite is one of those fruits like pawpaw and Christophine that provides a substrate that they could take and reuse and flavor it to anything tart, sweet, salty, and sell it back to you. And you eating maraschino cherry that used to be a pomsite or a pawpaw, and you don't know you're eating an olive mash. They have things that they use these things for. It is literally flavor. The same cornmeal that they extrude to make Cocoa Krispies and flavor it sweet with chocolate, they exude it and through another machine, and they salt it and cheese it and give you corn kernels. But it's the same basic mash. And for food, food is the biggest growth pole in the world continuously. Every time the population increases, the first demand is food. The first demand is food. The Progressive Empowerment Party will create a target based on consumption patterns for the past 30 years to get us food self-sufficient and to get in we say net 5 years food self-sufficiency and net food exporter in 10. Because in the time it takes all of these crops to come, and we're talking hardy crops here, guava, breadfruit, soursop, mango, avocado, passion fruit, those things, when they come to maturity, you just have to protect them from disease. And you know those diseases where they come from, and they usually come from imported fruits and vegetables and plant life. So your quarantine is important for the importation for anything foreign. And you have to be able to work. This is where certification for exports come in. Because if you accepting apples from Grenada, I just drawing a reference, if you certify, because they have a company right now that has millions of dollars in hot dogs and salamis and hams on the port that can't get it cleared, and they're saying that they're questioning the certificate, and they're going to question the certificate until the food spoil. But other 1% importers don't have that certificate problem, because they have certain people who know that once those containers move, they getting handled. Mealybug kills soursop. But we get started over now. There's not a mealybug in Trinidad. But these are export items. If I was trying to explain to you certification, if you say you're bringing in Pomerac from Grenada, and one shipment, because every shipment have to be tested, every shipment have to be open and examined, because we say we are allowing Pomerac in from Grenada, that don't mean it leaving the port sealed, just in case the cocaine people sending the cocaine in the heart of a Pomerac. So we have to open and test any food. One of my first jobs in life was to work in the marketing department at Nestle. Nestle is a Swiss company, but it is one of the biggest food companies in the world. And Nestle's procedures, learned over a history of how to deal with issues. Nestle procedures is every product batch that they manufacture, they take out some and date them for the shelf life test. So this is supposed to last 12 months between the warehouse, the truck, the grocery, and your house. 12 months. So we will check this one 1st, 3rd, 6th, 9th and test it to see where it is. So each of those that get pulled from today's batch is dated, the batch is numbered, and they put this on it. So that if they pull it to test it in 6 months and they develop a problem, they could recall that whole batch of that whole product. I don't want to give their names any, I don't want to give them any kind of bad name. I'm just saying that is proper management of the food stock in your company, and we could do the same as a country. Everything that comes in has to be tested. You have to impound for the shelf life. They have to tell you the value of the shelf. They have to tell you the length of time, and that have to be certified by food technologists. that this is exactly what you say is going to happen. Because countries don't pay the fool with certification. Grenada don't want to lose a certificate to export to Trinidad. And again, I'm just using random names to make a point that you're not going to play the fool with your certification, because if you accidentally ship us a shipment of product that damage anything in our country, you could lose the ability to ship to us. And shipping food is part of most food agricultural societies' GDP. You don't want to lose, because you can't say, in 3 months I have a mango crop coming in, and that mango crop is based on shipping to Trinidad, but last month's pomegranate crop mash up with certification. All our mango going and rot. All. Because Trinidad not taking anything else from you until we agree on the ground that your certification ability is proper and that we could trust you to say that the quality of the food that you're exporting. I'm not going too deep in it and I'm getting too serious about it, and some of y'all can't go so far into anything. And that's okay. You don't need to go so far. You just need to know that you have people in office who could think past the poll, who could think past the vote, who could think past the lie, who could think past just trying to get it work. Trinidad and Tobago could be massive in shipping, in ship turnaround, in marine storage, in agro-food processing, cruise ship tourism, and nature tourism. Those are the basic things to start. But we also have plans to make Trinidad and Tobago a manufacturing zone for the Western world. And as small as we are, it benefits us better because we have summer 24/7. Our dollar has the value of toilet paper. Our people are already underpaid. So anybody coming to set up here, the cost to do that business in Trinidad and Tobago is easily absorbed. Plus, we are prepared to eat for the first 10 years. All of the costs to set you up. So that we don't have to put out the capital. If you're going to bring Disney Cruise Line to Trinidad, give Disney Cruise Line their own facilities to build and give them it free for 10 years. The reality of how we operate this country is a theftocracy. Whatever is there is being stolen by friends and financiers of the PNM and the UNC. We need to break that. We need to open this country, and every market. When you open the country, it's not like a prostitute, you know. You open the country market by market, and every market that you open yourself to, you open it a quid pro quo. That we taking this from you, but we expecting that. It's called trade balance. And trade balance is important. Trinidad is going to be running on a negative trade balance, I mean a positive to us, but a negative trade balance to them, because we're looking to use Trinidad and Tobago as a duty-free manufacturing capital of the Western world. For companies that need to assemble for break bulk. We're perfectly poised for that. And the only reason we're perfectly poised for that is we are the only country in the Caribbean that is outside of the hurricane belt. So we don't have to shut down manufacturing every couple of months. Somebody's saying you have to look at the CARICOM mafia too. Yes, you do. But you can't talk to them until you're back to being strong. Until you could build a model to operate your country that works and takes care of all your people, then you invite CARICOM in and you say, listen, this is what we've done and it is working for us. The market is huge. We are 17 million people and there's 8 billion people on the planet that we could service. So it's a constant growth. That 8 billion is expected to be 16 billion people by 2040. There is constant avenues for growth we'll never be able to supply. So we have no problem sharing with you and harnessing and leveraging synergies right up the island chain. Let us work that out, because some countries could just provide the space to grow pepper. Some countries could provide, and anything else that you could think that you could use and need to make CARICOM work. Because for CARICOM to be a real common market, there has to be a reason and a purpose, not just name only, so that all of the countries can prosper. The reality is a united Caribbean could be one of the most powerful groupings of countries in the world, because we could be food and energy self-sufficient from the start. And very few could say that. We already, and we still have an abundance of fresh water. Those things determine if you could survive. But to prosper, you need to be able to trade with the world. You need to be able to provide services to the world that the world needs and benefits your people positively, profitably. And that is our whole vision. That we end the corruption, jail the corrupt, bring to justice all former government ministers and members of parliament and any public office holders who have abused the public's trust. You need to make a clear example. Break their hands, figuratively, not literally, but break their gnarly fingers off the public purse. Break it and stop it. We need to turn this country back around and set a target to match Norway. Okay, so that's the goal. The goal is Norway to put $1 trillion in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Okay, so our fund will be, again, you could create a fund where you could never touch the principal. Never. The principal is beyond you. You could do a joint fund with other countries in the world where you don't have access to the principal unless everybody go to war. So the only thing that you can benefit from is the interest. So the more money you put there, because the moment you get $1 trillion in your Heritage and Stabilization Fund, you're getting twice Trinidad's annual budget. You're getting twice Trinidad's annual budget. Then we don't sell nothing. All the way in Trinidad, we can have 5 carnival a year. I wouldn't even, listen, you see when people come in to talk about the cannabis industry, I want you all to go and do your research. The cannabis industry is already tapped out. Countries like California and Chile have already cornered that market. I mean, if you want to grow it, grow it. But let's be honest, the real thing is food. Hemp is a growth pool. Hemp is a growth pool. There are bigger islands in the Caribbean. Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica. Pull them in. Work with them. Use them to grow. But you have to grow in an environmental sustainable manner. Don't do what the palm oil industry is doing to Borneo, wiping out forests that are 1 million years old and killing all the orangutans and all the animals. You can't be like that. Tobago's forests are protected. We need to protect them. It is because of legislation that existed for Tobago forests since 300 years ago that countries like America copied the same legislation to protect their parks. We could be a real country in 5 quick years. We could be a real country in quick time. It doesn't have to take long. So when you hear UNC supporters tell you, Kamala only had 5 years. In 5 years, you could, in 1 year, you could secure this nation's borders and end the drug trade and the gun trade. 1 year. In 1 year, you could begin the process of creating that industry that I told you about. In 1 year, we could have cruise tourism, we could have shipping, ship turnaround. In 1 year, we could move the port of Port of Spain to Point Lisa. So you do that in 3 months. It's a port. It's just concrete and steel and dredging. That's fast to do. We could do that. We could build a berm underwater and block the effluent coming from the Guyanese River that dirtying our best coast from Chagaramas down to San Fernando. That whole coastline of Trinidad and Tobago is an actual golden coast if we could clean the sea. All of this, all of it. You could do so much. We could be food self-sufficient in 5 years. In 2 years, you could throw away your water tank. In 2 years. In 2 years, with the borders secured and the guns off the street, you could stop spending money on wrought iron or Orinoco. In 2 years. In 3 years, our whole education system could be repurposed to a community model that abolishes the SEA. In 5 years, a constituency board of supervisors will be managing a public health system that leaves not one person behind. You could have that country in 1 term. There's only 1 term I prepare to serve. You can't get extra life, you know. And I want to use the rest of my life to my benefit, not doing this. I've done this for about 26 years. I'm tired. I am prepared to give 5 years in office. And it was supposed to stop in 2018. In 2008, I got in that accident that said I will commit myself for 10 years. And that was supposed to stop in 2018. This is 2020. And I tell you, I want one term. One term, and not I don't want that more. If you can't fix it in one term, you shouldn't be trying to get into office. When you tell people that you're going to get them 50,000 jobs, you need to be able to say where those jobs are going to be. And I can tell you where those jobs are going to be. We talk about things like transforming our jails into universities. We talk about programs like literacy first, that anybody that comes to the state for any kind of handout or hand up must first do a literacy test. And if you're illiterate, go through a 12-week course. So you get basic literacy because you teach somebody to read and you open the world to them. And those things, from the time you take an illiterate person and teach them to read, and you open that world to them, they could go on to educate themselves. Somebody in jail for 20 years, you tell them, if you get your degree, we cut 3 years. If you get your master's, we cut 6 years. If you get a doctorate, we open the gate. You can't have a doctor who made himself a doctor in jail. You could now send this doctor or this master, even that degree holder, back out into the community where he came from before, illiterate, and had no option, so he had to get himself in crime. He now goes out there as a developed human being. And of course, you have to also offer, because hurting people hurt people, and most of the people who end up in jail themselves have issues that they need to deal with. And we can't be packing 8 and 10 people in a cage. What we need to do is take responsibility for them. The prison system says to hold and treat, and many of our prisons officers are good and decent people that want that. In everything there will be rogues. Don't focus on that. Let us focus on the fact that our jail system should become universities, that people inside of there should have hope and opportunity too, so that when you let them out, they're not worse, they're better. Because if we can't do that, what's the point? We're not holding and treating, we're subjugating and torturing. Think it through. When you have somebody come out of jail that is educated, more educated than they went in, they've literally paid their debt to society and now coming out as a full contributing member of society. There is no part. We have a second chance foundation to deal with the homeless. All of our homeless are either drug addicted, mentally ill, or have fallen through the cracks of life. And you identify who is who, and you put the mentally ill into facilities that treat them with dignity and respect. The drug addicted, you manage them, you put them in systems to manage their situation. And those who have fallen through the cracks of life, you give them a leg up. Watch me now. The average person is worth more to the government. You know what Germany does? You could be fully employed in Germany and go to the government and take a year off from work. And they give you your full salary for the year, you know. Full salary, because they know you're coming back. Because to the government, you are a taxpayer and a contributor to the development and the management of the country. And they need to make sure that you're fully gainfully employed. Countries like Sweden and Holland, your taxes, you pay 50-60% in tax. But if you get fired from your job for any reason, they have to maintain your salary for about 6 months, and they help reposition you in another job. Because they need you working. If you don't have to run down people who end up in crime because they're hungry, if you don't have to run social services programs because people can't get jobs, if you don't have to pay the cost of those things, but in fact take this person and make them a tax-paying, contributing member of society, it is in your best interest to spend all of your time and effort on your people and make sure that your people are developed and functional. If that is not, your government or your party's plans, stand down. If you don't see people first, if you don't understand the power of the community, if you don't get that the nation is a collection of communities and a community is made up of families and people, if you don't get that, stand down. We don't need the next 5 years of drama, bacchanal, and noise. It's not going to help anybody. We don't need it. What we need is Trinidad and Tobago to quickly become first world and developed. And we could do that. Everything that is a problem, and this is what a lot of people don't get, that everything that is a problem, man has the capacity to solve. We've learned in 100 years to bring daylight into the night and to fly to the moon. That's a lot of accomplishments. you as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, you are entitled to so much more than you get, not as handouts, but as developmental capacity and ways for you and yours to maximize their potential. There must be ways for you to slipstream and increase your earnings in a country that says, if you become this type of professional or that type of professional, we need you because we are developing industry that caters to that capacity. You could plan your life. You could actually plan your life in a country where corruption could be punishable by death. Because we need that. We need a drug trafficking ordinance that sentences you to death and corruption to death. And I know some people don't like the death penalty, but I want to tell you something. That's the fastest way to send a message to society. And if you doubt it, go Singapore. Go Singapore. An American went to Singapore and sprayed graffiti on a wall. And they sentenced him to caning. And a lash across your back with a cane is not fun. The President of the United States tried to intervene. The most they did was they cut it from 6 to 4 lashes. But they said, citizens of the country can't get away. Your citizen can't get away either. He take his lash and leave. But it says something, that you will enforce the law. And if you're going to enforce the law, if you're not going to enforce the law, what's the point of the law? What's the point of it? Look at us. Look at Trinidad and Tobago. Look around. I had to tell somebody today, Lavantil Hill older than Goodwood Park Hill. What went wrong? What went wrong? Our realities are we've put our critical thinking aside to vote based on tribe and nonsense. And that has ruined Trinidad and Tobago. We need to turn that around. In 5 weeks, August the 10th, you have an opportunity. And get this, it cannot get worse. It cannot get worse. I was on a job site once, and we were hiring a guy to do demolition. And we were asking him if we sure that he could do what he said. Boss, I hear with a hammer, you know. You want to demolish this. From the first swing, I increase in your value. And that's true. Trinidad can't get worse. We need to get this country, all our people rowing in the same direction. And the only way to get all our people rowing in the same direction is to end the politics of race. We cannot continue to believe that half a ship could sink and the other half will go its merry way. All that happens in the exchange of red and yellow is that a side gets some money and a side gets some money every 5 years. But the country loses its value and its equity. We are now purposeless and adrift. The government is going to tell you they're billing this and they're billing that. Ask them for what? What's the purpose? How does it contribute to the further development of the country? They have no clue. They have no plan. We have no industry. We've closed 7 plants in Point Lisas this year. We have no plan. There are no goals. There are no national targets. You don't know what we're for. You don't know what to study if you go to school. All Trinidadians know is to wake up and hustle and grind and survive. And if you get a chance, line up outside the American embassy and try and get a land there. Or Canada. Imagine if we could make this country so successful, so profitable, so enjoyable that Americans and Canadians line up in the snow 4 o'clock in the morning to get a visa to come to Trinidad and Tobago. Imagine that. It's time for us to think big again. It is time for us to think of a better country. It is time for us to think about the future of our children and our grandchildren. It is time for us to think ourselves and vote ourselves a better country. It is time to end the madness of the contract mafia controlled political directorate that has used and abused public office to their own benefit. The Chamber of Commerce says so. It is time for a better Trinidad and Tobago. It is time for real change. And if you want that, it's time to vote for to schools for sanitizing, the one that tutor has complained is hazardous turns out to be not registered for use in Trinidad and Tobago. So someone imported all of this and sold it to the government and made a ton load of money, and it cannot be used. Aren't you tired of stories like that?
When you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the time is now that change should come about, just as how you vote them in, vote them out. Register and vote them out. If they don't see, vote them out. State your finger and vote them out. Show them no mercy, vote them out. Vote them out with total scorn and utter disdain. Let's put our country together again. Put them out of power, dominate their reign. Let's put our country together again. If for 30 years you voting them in, and these only tears as soon as they win, they give you big words and enslave your souls, promising you roads and giving potholes. If they are the reason why the economy won't sprout, when you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the passing laws that them alone can flout, when you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the building eyesores, east, west, north, and south, the same way you vote them in, vote them out. Register and vote them out. Totally vote them out. State your finger and vote them out. Rescue the country, vote them out. Vote them out with tempo, they have been paid. Let's put our country together again. Vote them out with calypso and joyous refrain. Let's put our country together again. If their policy is a fallacy, their bureaucracy a catastrophe, if they cannot cope and you see it so, then your only hope is for them to go. If it is fabrication, these statements that they spout, when you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is that frustration does make you want to shout, when you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. Before the misuse out, deeper sell out and digs out. Visit you, vote them in, vote them out. Register and vote them out. All of them, vote them out. Stick your finger and vote them out. Them on the system, vote them out. Vote them out in Scarborough and in Port of Spain. Let's put our country together again. Vote them out in Comodo and in La Romaine. Let's put our country together again.
Imagine if mango, pomerac, pomsite, guava is profitable to high-low and true value, but still cheaper than apples and grapes, as it should be. Imagine our people's changing diet, choosing something that has far more fiber, far more vitamins and nutrients. One guava has more vitamin C than 5 oranges. Soursop is considered a natural cancer fighter. Breadfruit is the only low glycemic starch on the planet. Unlike wheat, potatoes, and rice, it doesn't spike your sugar, it stabilizes it. These are things that we should be consuming as a nation. And what you develop as national taste, you do it by what you support. And as we singing and chanting and praying and planning, we need your financial assistance to pay for all of the TV time. You know how all the peppers just get excited, pep on TV, and look, and you call your friends and your family, look, we out and bad. That's cost money. And we need your help. So please, you gotta dig deep. When this man tell me it's 1,400 live videos I do, I feel I should submit a bill. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to dig deep and help the party. Reach out to Felicia. Give her $100, $200, give her $500. We're counting the thousands that we have to pay for our advertising. One broadcast on TV now, Monday night broadcast, is $42,000. We need your help. We need your assistance. We need from the smallest to the biggest. Those of you, and there are a couple people who can, and you know yourself, and you've seen the level of the effort. I want to tell you something. The only way to move us from can to will is if you bet on us, and we need you to bet on us. We need to get the message as far out as possible. Every time a Trinidadian comes in contact with the Progressive Empowerment Party, they get converted. It's infectious. They're loving the family vibe, the intelligence behind it. They believe in the movement to make the change we never had. But we need you to help us get there. If you could, please, please. Zamir Snag say I would give me blood. No partner, don't give you blood. Go and sell it in the blood bank. No, I'm joking. The blood bank don't pay for blood in Trinidad. Thank you for your support, Mario. Trinidad and Tobago is on you, it's on me, it's on us. This is a we thing. We could make this happen. We could make a better country for all of us. Trinidad and Tobago could be paradise on earth convincingly, as David would say. Give us some help. Give us some financial help. Felicia's number is 769-4590. Reach out to Hadassah. Reach out to Satish. If you're in Canada, reach out to Anthony and Joan Sinanan. If you're in America, New York City, you can reach out to Denise Xavier. You can reach out to the Birchwood brothers. You can reach out to any of our members on the threads. Look for Glenn Robinson and wake him up. He's fall asleep if you don't have him doing something. Look for the candidates. Get involved and help us. Those of you who Candidates have been announced in your constituencies. Monday night we're announcing all. And as the constituents, as your candidate get announced, reach out to them. We will publish all our candidates' phone numbers. Reach out to them and volunteer to assist them in the constituency, help them on the ground, take them around, show them all your family and all your relatives and all the business people in the community, and give them every advantage and every chance. It is time to forget the politics of old noise and loud noise and big crowd. It is time to ask the politicians who are asking for your vote to talk sensibly to you about the issues affecting you and your loved ones. All of the Progressive Empowerment Party candidates can ask everybody to tell you, if I give you the chance to represent me, what would you do for me? Glenn say up. But seriously, we need your assistance. We really do need your help. We have 31 days of this. Help us. Help us do this. Help us get into office. Put the Progressive Empowerment Party in the parliament and change the way government is done in Trinidad and Tobago. We will bring the contract mafia to a screeching halt. Vote the Progressive Empowerment Party government into office, and on August 10th midnight, we'll shut down the airport and the seaports, so nobody is escaping. The reality is, and I know there have some people who say, that sounds harsh, but we want to give everybody the opportunity to contact their foreign banks and bring back Trinidad money. We'll get them at 3 months. You get a little, what you call it? You get a little period, a little grace period. 3 months, go call Liechtenstein, call Panama, call France, call Germany, call London. Wherever you have Trinidad money, you need some time to divest. It's in stocks, it's in bonds, it's in properties. Divest. 3 months is good time. Bring our money back and just put it back. And then haul. Get out, save yourself, because we don't want you in our country after, because you used the opportunities that were given to you to betray the public's trust. Can you use your driver's permit to vote? They really shouldn't be accepting a driver's permit, because a driver's permit, although I don't know why it's not a national identification, but it's not a national identification. Your passport, your birth certificate, your ID card, I think your driver's permit might work in a pinch. I don't know what the law is. Again, I don't know why a driver's permit that has an expiry date and a driver's permit number is not a national identification card. But this is something else the Progressive. I tell you this now, you will hear Kamala and Keith copy it tomorrow. But we propose to remove all the different numbers from all those different IDs we just talked about and create one national identification number that is present on your ID card, on your voter card, on your driver's permit, on your passport, one number. You, that's you. So you don't have to keep track of everything, so we can manage the system better. From birth to death, all our people should be in a database to make sure that we're providing the correct amount of government services to the people. All those things we talk about in depth in the next one. But this one, let's talk money. We need your help. Go out there and talk to your family and ask everybody to put a little $50, a little $100. Make it a cause. We're fighting for a better Trinidad and Tobago. We need your assistance. We need your help. Yeah. Monday night at 8 o'clock, we are going to have the launch of the Progressive Empowerment Party full slate of candidates, the week of nomination, and it will create a political earthquake. I want to tell you something. Tell all the small parties stand down. Tell Gavin, Nicholas, and them don't do it. Don't do it. Don't come out. Stay home. Don't do it. Even if you win, what you gonna do with your 2 seats? What? If Kirkwood win Laventille West, what are you going to do? Really plant lettuce? Come on, now is not the time for stunts. Now is not the time to try and bring out the defibrillators, to try and bring COP back to life. Claire! They're happening, catch a fire. COP dead, let it die. Come on, they had some good memories. A lot of us have good memories of the COP that we're not being allowed to reminisce about because they still have people trying to pretend that the corpse of the COP is alive. Stop it. Tell all the small parties and them to stop it. Now is not the time. If you want to help, join the Progressive Empowerment Party. If you want to be politically active, join the Progressive Empowerment Party. Help us fix it. Help us change it. If what you want is a better Trinidad and Tobago, come on board the best vehicle to unite the country and save us from the madness of racism, political racism, and corruption. You want a better country? Vote PEP. Until tomorrow. Stay